Hey everybody, this is Andrea Jenson from the Cash Flow CFO, and you're listening to the Cash Flow CFO Podcast, the show that explores the financial side of running a business for people who want to maximize profitability and scale with confidence. If you want to make smart financial decisions based on data and put more of your hard-earned profits into your pocket, this is the podcast for you. This episode of the Cash Flow CFO podcast is brought to you by the Cash Flow CFO. Did you know that on average, business owners have up to 84% of their personal net worth tied up in their business? Our virtual CPAs and CFOs, as well as accounting and bookkeeping experts, empower business owners just like you to make big leaps that help them maximize profitability and scale with confidence. Visit thecashflowcfo.com for more information, and thank you for listening. Hey everyone, it's Andrea, and our guest for today is Jim Padilla. Jim is a global impact strategist and investor, and the founder and CEO of Gain the Edge, a done-for-you provider of industry-leading sales systems and unicorn sales professionals, which he co-leads with his wife and entrepreneurial partner in crime, Cindy Padilla. Through their unique blend of laser-targeted selling systems, inspirational team-building expertise, and 60-plus years of combined sales experience, Jim and his wife have generated over $250 million in sales for a long line of high-level visionary entrepreneurs. I'm excited to have you on the show today. Welcome, Jim.
Thanks for having me on, Andrea. So good to be able to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have known Jim and Cindy for long time. And I consider them family and very good friends. And for all of our listeners and viewers, you guys are in for a treat today because Jim is magic. Every time I'm around Jim, I just absorb so much like little nuggets that he drops and all kinds of good stuff. So I'm super excited. Jim, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, excited to be on. I've been listening to a lot of your interviews and just the focus and the frames of the conversation. You know, I like that it's not just all, CFO stuff, right? It's business, it's growth, it's personal, you got a good show going.
Yeah, thank you. I think you've been doing this your whole life. There's so much intertwined of business and personal and just all the things, and money touches all of those. Because one decision you make over here in the business, it's going to affect, ultimately on the personal side and vice versa and things like that. So I think that's one of the things I don't see enough financial professionals do is look at it holistically and really look at what's the impact and what are we trying to achieve on both sides so that, it's a win-win situation. But what I want to talk about today, and I'm so excited to have your brain and your just years of expertise and experience talking about cash flow. Now, this is kind of a loaded topic, right? Because I hear a lot of people, there's two camps, right? Cash flow, when you're talking to a financial professional, cash flow means you've already got the money. It's in the business. Now, what are we doing with it? How are we speeding up collections? How are we slowing down making payments? How are we, restructuring debt? Things like that. We want to talk about, okay, we've got the cash. Now, here's how we're going to strategically make the most use of that in the business. But a lot of other people, the other side of the camp, right, is cash flow means sales, marketing, getting the cash in the door. And that's where your zone of genius and your world, revolves around, is getting that cash in the door and making sales, right? So I'd love to just start off. Tell us a little bit. Number one, I gave you a good bio, but there's so much more that you guys do. Tell us what you're up to right now in your company, and then we can dive into some conversation around how you view cash flow and some tips and tricks that our listeners and viewers can implement into their own business.
Yeah. As you know, Andrea is understated, not tooting her own horn, but tooting her own horn. But she was our CFO for 4 years. And so she's been intimately acquainted with our business and very instrumental in a lot of our ascent. We've been very blessed and had some great success in our business. And, we kind of stumbled into this on accident. This isn't really something we chose. It chose us. And, back in 2014, we were moving from a sales and leadership coaching into a we were encouraged to try a done for you model. I had no idea what that was going to look like or even what that meant. And quite honestly, if I knew what was coming, I probably would have said no. But because it has tested and stretched and grown us in more ways than I could possibly imagine. But we jumped in to support a launch that Bill Barron, who at the time was an emerging rock star in the coaching world, and he was going to do his first 7-figure launch, and he wanted a sales team instead of come in to train people. So of course we said yes, had no idea what we were doing, didn't even know what a launch was. And, 2 weeks later, we had a, $1.6 million, very successful, very, unorganized and devastatingly challenging launch. And 2 weeks later, a line was at the door. And we spent the next 2 years doing events and launches for, some of the who's who in the expert space. And then they started wanting us to stick around between launches. And so we had to learn that too. What was evergreen sales? What was it building campaigns and funnels and systems and back end? The thing that we learned along the way while generating, being just such a blessing, it was a total God thing, because all of this has been, I could have never planned to learn so much about business, client acquisition, growth, retention, profit, the difference between revenue and profit. There were times when we made millions and spent $1 million plus one. And there's easy to do when you're growing and scaling because it's expensive to fund growth. And so those are the things that there's a lot of lessons in there. But what happened is all the clients we work with, whether they were approaching 7 figures or moving to 8 figures or looking to scale, one thing they all had in common is none of them had really good systems, structures, and strategy. So they would come saying, hey, we're looking for a sales team. And we would take them on, and then we had massive scope creep because we had to start getting them actually ready for a sales team. And that just got to be painful and expensive over the years. So our recent shift we spent the last 18 months productizing all of the systems that we created to support that scope creep and structures and strategy. And now we sell all of those systems and the consulting to go with it. And if you're lucky, salespeople, right? So that's the byproduct if everything else is done right. But we will not give people a salesperson until you have all of that in place. And then part of building out those systems and processes and strategies and structures is designing a journey for your buyers that make it really easy for a salesperson to look great. And then the more great they look, the more money they make, the happier they are, and the more money you'll make, and the more clients you'll have served.
Yes, so. Absolutely. I love that. And I think one of the things that you mentioned that I just want to kind of dig into a little bit more there is the systems behind, like people think, oh, I'm going to hit the easy button and call Jim and just get a salesperson in, but I have nothing, and then here you go figure it out. And I've seen it with you guys, right? How many very successful business owners think that, oh, this is going to solve all my problems. I'm just going to put a salesperson in place. What are some of the systems that somebody has to have? Like, it's one thing to get even, like sometimes they just didn't even have enough lead volume, right? To even have a salesperson. But let's just say they have the lead volume coming in. What are some of the systems that take somebody from raising their hand to go, I want to know more about your stuff, to getting on the phone or however your sales process is? What are some of those systems that are missing usually?
Well, some of this has evolved over the years, and we're living in a post-COVID world. There's definitely things that are different than pre-COVID, and then now into this quote-unquote recession, and combined with a political year and all this. There's so many things that need to happen that maybe didn't have to happen in the past. But you want to make sure that there's a quality engagement system, and by engagement, it's how many different touch points and how many different ways can you touch people as they are moving closer to an opportunity for you? Whether that's, if you're going from, what I call the mad dash from clicks to cash, because everybody is trying to go from click to high ticket sale in the world record time. And while, yes, that's possible, that is the smallest percentage of your buyers. And so you have to have a way to make sure that those people are qualified, and you find the people who are a now ready person. So get that engagement piece. Then you need a good quality booking system. What is your booking system? Do you just throw out a booking link through Acuity or Calendly or something? And there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, here's something I've actually recently kind of owned as my philosophy on this. If you are not going to customize it, then just use the basic bare bones system, because nobody, if that's what they see, they're used to seeing it, and that's okay. If you want a high caliber booking system, you want to customize it, make it on your own landing pages, do your own things, then you need to do it top notch. You need to do it with excellence, or don't do it, because you run the risk of doing more harm than good. So if they just see a vanilla Acuity page, great, they can book on that. But the moment they see your video, your picture, your case studies, different stuff, you better do it well. Otherwise, you could prevent them from booking anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need a good engagement system, a good booking system, and then a really strong qualification process. And a lot of these terms are very generic, and so they get overused and misused. A qualification system is something that what I call is an affirming model. So what you want to do is you got to recognize that if somebody has taken your off-ramp off the freeway, they do it on purpose. Now, sometimes we start driving down the highway and you're not paying attention. You listen to a good song or you're listening to a podcast and you just roll right off the freeway onto off-ramp oh my gosh, why did I get off on this one? But 99% of the time you get off because you wanted to get off there. And so if somebody get off on your off-ramp and comes down your street, you want to make sure that every single touch point from then on gives them an affirming perspective that, oh yeah, this is exactly why I'm here. Of course they would send me that. That makes sense right now. You know what? This is really good. Yep. Because every time you're helping them affirm that they made the right turn. They made a good choice getting off on the freeway. Don't send them your generic stuff. Don't start selling them from the moment they get off on your on-ramp. Make sure that they go, oh, this is cool. Yeah, I like the way they think. This feels good. I like it. Oh, this is different. That's curious. That's interesting, right? Whatever you're sending them, every touch point, it needs to start fitting the brand and be unique to the off-ramp that they took. Right? Because all of that, it's not about overly qualifying. Too many people are like, well, do you have the money? Do you have the resources? Well, if they're consuming the stuff that you're sending them, that by definition is qualifying, because they're consuming it, which is helping them recognize that they actually are interested in solving this problem and want to know more. Right? I'm not as concerned if they say, I got money to spend, because that's just a check in the box thing. And most people will fill that out quite without true honesty on it, because they don't want to say, yes, I'm ready to invest, because then they're afraid of you selling them something or whatever. So those are not foolproof, right? I'm much more concerned. The two things that we look for in qualification is behavior and proximity. What's the behaviors you want to see from them to let them know and let you know, because it's double-ended. You need to know and they need to know that they're in the right spot and that they're moving to solve a problem. And then not just the behavior, but in what proximity. Somebody who booked an appointment to talk to you tomorrow is not the same level of urgency as the person who booked an appointment to talk to you 4 weeks ago and no-showed. They both booked an appointment, right? But so in terms of priority, you go with the proximity and the right behavior. And then it's the people who booked and didn't show. And then it's the people who didn't book. And then it's right. So but you separate them all and you communicate them all differently.
Yeah. No, that's genius. I hope everybody wrote that down. And that's huge, right? Because then by the time they get on the phone with somebody to talk about what it is you do and all the good stuff, right? They're already, more educated than when they clicked to begin the journey with you, right? And that salesperson is set up for success too, right?
Right. And then the next piece, and this is where we spend a lot of our time, because a lot of people come to us and they're spending good money on generating traffic, generating leads, whatever it is, whether it's 30 cents a click or $30 an appointment or $300 an appointment. It doesn't matter. The price is what it is. And our mission is to make sure that price consistently drops. So we don't have anything to do with your targeting and your ads, but we have everything to do with how well those people are served, how many of them buy more over time, how many of them spend more in your world. Because every time that happens, you're reducing your client acquisition costs by percentage points. And that's valuable. Warren Buffett has one of my favorite quotes in one of his books that I read recently. And he was talking about, as an investor, he was an absolute no for him is he will never invest in a company that the client acquisition cost increases at the same rate of the revenue.
Yep.
Because some people just tie it, 10% client acquisition cost, no matter how much you spend. But if you're growing in revenue and everything else is being done right, the client acquisition cost could consistently drop. Mm-hmm. Because to him, that's one of his ultimate benchmarks of a well-run company, because they're doing all the other things right.
Oh, I love that. What book is it, Jim?
It is the financial statements. I think it's the financial statements and plans of, I think it's written by his daughter or granddaughter or somebody.
I have that book. Yeah. I know which one you're talking about. And that's so funny, because I read the same book, but that didn't stand out to me. That stood out to you, because that's so true, right? When we look at a business, and let me just break that down for everybody, what Jim just said, because if your customer acquisition cost is staying in lockstep with your revenue, that means that you're not selling more to the people you've already paid to acquire that customer. So that means you're not serving them as well as you can, right? Because you might solve one problem, but then what's the next problem that they have? How are you serving them there? And Jim, I know you can speak to this, because you said something before we went live here, as you said, we're focused on where they're going to be in 3 years with us in their journey, with the buying journey with the company. So maybe let's jump into that a little bit and talk about that too.
Yeah. And as it pertains to, reducing the client acquisition cost as revenue comes in, part of it is more sales, and a part of it is more efficient delivery and fulfillment systems, more effective team culture. I mean, everything you do goes into reducing the client acquisition cost, because you're getting your clients served better, more efficiently, more effectively, and getting them to spend more. And the back end journey is where we're putting all of our time. That's really our biggest differentiator, because we're selling our mission. I have a client, a partner, who he's a speaker. He speaks 7 different languages, and he's spoken in 42 different countries. And he's from Brazil, really good guy. And we were talking about this one day, and I said, what is your retention rate? How long people stay in your world? And he said, 15 years. He said, my mission is just to get in the right rooms and make sure that people get in the front door, because once they come in the front door, they stay for 15 years. And right now, we currently have a 2-year, 4-month retention, and our mission is to get it to 3 years. And after he told me that, I'm like, hell no, our mission is 15 years now. What do we got to do to keep people? Who do we have to be? What kind of business do we have to attract? What kind of people can we bring in? What kind of problems do we have to solve to keep people in our world for 15 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Tremendous. Yeah. I mean, what a great opportunity to serve.
Totally. But that gets you, now, if you're committed to that and you make that as a decision, that means you cut off all other options, right? So when you decide that, you make decisions differently. You think about how, you don't have to solve all their problems at once. Here, write this down, guys. Stop with the over delivery. Stop with over promise. Stop with surprise and delight. I got studies on that. Happy to share them with you. It literally, Google and Zendesk did a study on this several years ago on surprise and delight. And surprise and delight cost the average company 20 to 30% extra in resources. But retention and benefit is less than 16%. People don't care. People do not care if you give them the extra fluff. They want what they paid for. And especially today, they're still buying. So don't think they're not buying. They're just much more discriminating, and they want to make sure that when they buy, they get their problem solved. They get what they paid for. So get really good at exactly delivering instead of over delivering. Give them exactly what they want. So most of you can take a lot of stuff, put your offer up on the rack and start stripping stuff out. And what exactly are you going to promise them? Or you could probably turn one offer into 3 offers that you can deliver over the course of a year or 2 or 3. Right? And then you're letting them know right from the beginning, this is what I offer. This is how we do it. This is the problem it solves. Here's how long it takes to implement it. Here's how much it costs us. You can choose. Do you just want my system? Do you want my system with some consulting, or do you want us to do it for you? And one is 5,000, another is 15, and another one's 150. Right? So it's based on what you want. And I don't care. I'm agnostic to all of it. You choose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they know that our mission is that when this is in place, we're on a mission to take people from profitable to viable to viable. We want everybody to have a viable business. Whether you want to sell or not, you should have a goal to have a viable business because it's the most pleasurable to run. It's the most enjoyable. It's the most profitable. It's the easiest thing to do. So I don't care if you want to sell it, but I want you to have a business that can be sold.
Start scaling with confidence today. The Cash Flow CFO is a full-service accounting and fractional CFO firm. So it goes without saying that our financial experts are phenomenal at number crunching. But more than that, they are expert communicators who will connect all those complicated financial dots in a way that just makes sense. We don't wait in the wings and check in every so often either. With our boutique approach, we position ourselves front and center, watching over every dollar that comes in and out of your business as if it was our own. So if your business is making money and you're ready to take it to the next level, but you're not sure you completely understand your numbers, and you're looking for that trusted guide to help you build a roadmap to reach your financial goals, it sounds like we would be a great fit. Visit thecashflowcfo.com and let's get started empowering you to build and scale your business the way you want to today.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you never know when life's going to knock on your door and you're going to have to sell that business for whatever reason. And that's one of the things that we see so many times. It's business owners who get caught and they're not prepared. And all those years of building and investing time, energy, their personal money into this business to grow it, they've got nothing to show at the end of the day because they didn't install these systems. And really that's what it boils down to. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to think of all these things on your own. There's certain systems that are going to increase the valuation and the multiplier of your business. And they're very easy to, you need systems in each of the different tiers of your business. So what Jim is talking about here absolutely is going to increase the valuation of your business, because when you can lower that customer acquisition cost and your revenue is increasing, a buyer is going to look at that and go, "Ooh, this is really sexy. I want to know more about this. What are you guys doing over here?" And granted, not all buyers, very few are as sophisticated as Warren Buffett and have that as a check, check in their due diligence, check the box. But if you can show a buyer, hey, every time you're reducing the buyer's risk, your value of the company goes up. And this is absolutely one of those ways to install a system that automatically is doing that, right? It's embedded in how you deliver, because you're always looking at, like, Jim, talk a little bit about this, but you're training your culture to be like, okay, here's what we're going to do now. And then here's what's next. We're going to do this. And here's what's next.
Yes. We call it selling the mountaintop experience, because in the way I see it is everybody you're working with is climbing a mountain. And if they get to the mountain, they plant the flag. And then when they plant that flag, they're like, yes, we've made it. Well, what is your version of yes, we've made it? What is the mountaintop experience in your world? In our world, it's a viable business. It's a business that you can sell, right? And everybody doesn't make it all the way to the top. Some people will make it there in a year because they're really well done and they just need some systems and structure. We've had companies come to us because they have investors who told them, we're ready to take you to another level. We need you to see more predictable, scalable sales systems in your company. So they come to us for that, and a year later, they're ready for that investor. Some people, it's a 3-year journey, 5-year journey. But because before we get you viable, we have to get you viable. You need all the right systems in place. Before you can become viable, you need profit. And most people don't have enough of it. So we have to get you profitable, meaning more revenue, more back-end revenue, more ways to bring revenue, then turning that into systems, structure, processes. So you're viable. Now we start getting you to viable. There's really no shortcut around that. And there's a lot of things that happen in that. And as long as that's your commitment, we only work with people who are committed to that. Doesn't mean you're going to have it next year or this year. It could be 5 years. But as long as that's your journey and your commitment, we're all in. If you just want to make some more sales, we're not your company. We can't work with you because that's not our jam. We're going to drag you. We don't want that. But here's something to think about. Talking about the valuation piece is Everybody needs to get out of their mind that you owe it to your customer. And I am not saying devalue the customer. Always value the customer. Without them, you don't have a business. However, again, along the lines of exactly promise, what is the thing that they hired you for? And if they need more support or a more resource, maybe they need more tools, maybe they need more hands-on support, they're not entitled to that. And you don't have to give that to them. You can certainly sell that to them. And it's your job to make sure that they get more than what they paid for, right? If it's cost me an extra $1,000 a month to get this kind of support, how are you going to show me an extra $10,000 worth of value as a result? Right. So, but that's the journey. I mean, we get paid from a lot of clients upfront and a retainer model and commissions and performance bonus and a piece of the upside when they exit. And guess what? They're happy to do it, because if they're paying us all of those things to the tune of $250,000 or $300,000 over 5 years, it's because they're making $10 million doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We have a client right now that she signed up on us because she called us the doorway to millions. She's like, if you can lay out this plan you laid out for me, if we can do that, you are my dream come true, because she wants to go from 6 figures a month to $1 million a month in the next 3 years. We're like, let's roll. But you know that you're going to have to pay 6 figures plus to earn that $1 million a month.
Yeah, it's an investment. It's an investment. And that's the thing, right? Each new level that you get into in business, there's different systems you need to invest in, and there's different experts. You know, one of the things that I see a lot of business owners do is they try to solve it all themselves. That is the slowest and worst thing you could do. Identify the problem, know enough about I'm problem aware, I'm solution aware, and then go out and bring in that expert that's their jam. That's what they do all day long. And they're going to get you there so much faster, and you're going to see that return on investment. And I call it an investment because it's not an expense, right? It's very, very different. And when you're investing in systems that are going to continue to grow the company, that ROI is going to be forever. You're going to be seeing that ROI pay off. Versus a lot of people I talk to when we're having conversations about our services, they're like, oh, that's expensive. That's an expense that I don't know if I have. I'm like, whoa, back up. We first have to understand what's the difference between an expense and an investment. And something that's going to give you ultimate lifetime return, that's an investment, not an expense, right? We're not out buying purses and shoes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And this is the stuff that makes, we have a lot of discussions with people about who want to invest in us. We've had investors and then made whole, because our business model is kind of fun. From the outside, it's like, oh, I think some people look at us like our business like a new toy to play with. Like, oh my gosh, look at what we can do with this company, because there's so many ways to make money here. And again, a lot of that is that machine. How many different things can we add into so we can increase your MRR, so that we can increase your profitability, that we can give you a premium outcome, so that now you start attracting, this is what we always talk about too. You have your CFO service, and you also have smaller solutions. But those smaller solutions, if you're selling those to smaller people who are unqualified, now you're just muddying the waters. You still need to sell your premium solution or your smaller solution to your premium buyer. They're just getting a smaller taste, right? So all of you can sell anything you want to anybody, by all means, and please do. But all your marketing, all your messaging, all your targeting should only be to the premium buyer, because you're going to attract people who want to be the premium buyer. In their mind, they're just not there yet. Right? We attract people in our group programs who absolutely are excited about growth. They want to exit. They want to do something, but they know they need a lot of building first. So they're going to be in our world for minimum 3 years, but they're committed to the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. So tying this all back to cash flow, right? All these things that Jim is talking about here is front end cash flow, right? It's bringing in the sales. It's making more sales to the people you already have, right? That's one component of cash flow. And that's one way to think of cash flow. The other side of that cash flow, right, is you have the money, it's in the business, and what are you doing with it? And one of the things that I think people don't quite grasp is what is their customer acquisition cost and what is their customer lifetime value. That greatly affects your cash flow, because when you say, okay, I want to grow by 30% next year, or 50 or 70, whatever it is, you're going to have to acquire that many new customers, and that's going to cost you money. That's going to affect your cash flow. And so when we look at, there's two ways to grow your business, right? You can either reinvest your profits into growth, and whatever that looks like for you. It could be, investing into your ad spend to bring in more customers to sell to. It could be investing in a system, a process, a machinery, something like that that's going to help you do more of what you're doing. But ultimately or the second way is to go out and get funding, right? So you've got two choices there. And so you've got to look at that cash flow. Once you've got the money in the business, how are you allocating it properly? When we look at delivering, and I think this is a really good point here too, Jim, you were talking about the surprise and delight. Well, if you're job costing, if you're running an analysis on how much it costs you to deliver a service, that should be between 40 and 50% of your sales price. If you're adding in that surprise and delight, and that's an extra, 10, 20, 30% of your cost, and that's not counted in there, that's coming straight out of your profit line. So there's two things with cash flow: bringing it in and then managing it correctly while it's in the business. And there's some very technical bits that you can do. I mentioned it before, you want to make it easy for your clients to pay you, get paid up front, speed up the collections. Then there's other things you can do with your vendors, negotiate different terms. So you stretch out when you have to pay for things, all kinds of different technical little bits that you can do to manage the cash flow and keep it in the business. But ultimately, you need to look at it as, I'm bringing it in, the front end cash flow, and then the back end, how am I allocating these resources according to my business model to be as profitable as I can be? And then with that profit, you're looking at it and going, am I reinvesting this because I have growth goals and I want to scale my company? Or what am I doing with this profit? And your profit has to do a lot of things, right? You're servicing existing debt, you're paying taxes, you're taking your distributions or dividends, depending on your entity type, and you're reinvesting back into the business. So that 20 or 30% profit line that's coming in the business has to then be further allocated. What percent is going to each of those four things based on my goals in the business and things like that. So
totally. Something else that really helps a lot. We're not as much a fan of finding the world's greatest salespeople. We're focused on, as our sales philosophy on Growing Team is, find the world-class humans who will follow a world-class system and deliver in a world-class culture, and they will consistently and predictably overachieve. Part of that, as a world-class person, is somebody who's going to optimize themselves in all areas. And the more understanding your sales team has of your numbers, the more responsible they'll be in making profitable sales. Because they don't want to just close sales. They'll want to close a profitable client. And the other thing to think about is, like, in the cash flow perspective is, you got to look at your numbers to know what's your retention rate. A lot of times it's very common, excuse me, it's very common to have a 12 pay in your plan. Somebody's paying monthly instead of upfront. Well, be very, very clear about what is your attrition rate. Do people drop off at 7.5 months? And if they do, what incentives can you give people at month 5 to prepay the rest of the year for a discount, so you don't lose that money, but you get a committed buyer? Because once somebody starts slow paying you, all of a sudden you stop seeing them, and then they leave you. But if you can anticipate, okay, at month 5, they still owe, $5,000 for the rest of the year. And you say, look, for, $4,000, we'll let you pay off the rest of the year. Well, you lose $1,000, but the potential is you were going to lose $3,000 if your attrition numbers stay where they are. Until you now you have to have metrics, resource number conversations with your team about how do we go from 7 months retention to 9 to 12. Right. So then you make different decisions around that. And so those are things that you can, your sales team can help you with, right? As if they're conscious of that, mindful of that, that gives them opportunity to collect more revenue, speed up commissions, could maybe even upsell somebody. Say, hey, in addition to this, maybe you don't just pay off the rest of this year, but we'll apply that discount to the next upsell and we'll just go ahead and get you in it now, right? So there's ways to keep people in and get them sticky and engaged. But that requires you to have that as a culture and make sure you hire people who understand that and then consistently train them on those numbers. And then you got to figure out what numbers do you want to track, because there's a million numbers. And based on what you're trying to look for, what are your emphasis? What's the behaviors you want? What are the outcomes you want? Make sure you're really clear about what numbers you're looking at so that it will drive those behaviors. And the rest of them you have in your management meetings, but you only talk with your sales team about the stuff that directly benefits them and anything that's going to impact them that they may not be aware of.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, systems. We've got to install the systems before you bring in the people to do, that, because otherwise, their head's spinning around because you're trying to build it what is that saying? You're building it as you're flying
yes, building as you're flying it.
Building as you're flying it. And that's not fair for your salesperson, right? You're kind of, stringing them along and not setting them up for success right out the gate, which
that will be the opposite of what we talked about, taking an average person and making them and set them up to perform above average. Most people find a great person and then make them very average by putting him in a structure that doesn't have good systems and processes.
Oh, that's so perfectly said. Yes. I hope you guys, that's a good one, guys. Everybody that's listening and watching, write that one down, because don't think this person's going to be a magic wand to change your business. How you surround them with people and systems will change the game for them. On a higher level conversation, I know you got some very intelligent, audience around here, and I know you're in the acquisitions game as well. And this is something to think about as you're scaling your company. And again, there are no rules. There's only what you can institute, whatever negotiations you can make, because everything's negotiable in business. So when you're pulling in investors, you have to set the terms. Remember, price and terms. You can set one or the other. They don't get to set both. If somebody decides what they're going to invest, you set the terms over how they're going to invest. And you have to be crystal clear that if they want dividends versus an upside outcome, understanding the time value of money, maybe they put $100,000 into your business and they want a percentage every year. Well, you can give them, let's say they want 3% every year. Well, you can say, okay, I can give you 3% every year, or I can give you 5% or 6% if you wait 5 years, right? Or 10%. You sweeten the offer. Time value of money is real. You gotta make sure if they're going to wait for it, they got to get more for it. However, you can't risk that 3% as you're growing, because you will get stuck trying to grow when you're paying out dividends and you need that money like oxygen to consistently scale your business, to hire a new team, to get more ads, to do whatever it is. So make sure you have those kind of conversations with people who invest in you, so you know what kind of investor are they, what kind of payoff do they want. And even if they ask, I want an annual dividend, you get to negotiate that. Say, instead of that 3%, what if I guarantee you 10%, or be careful with the word guarantee, but what if I get you 10% over 5 years at the end as a payoff, right? Because if I'm the investor, I'm weighing that. If I don't need that money, I'm totally down for that, right? But if I need that payoff, then I won't make that deal with you. Yeah, because that's the difference. That additional amount that you're reinvesting back into the business, right? It's going to be compounded. So, if you're seeking outside funding, right? Talk to somebody who understands these things. Don't just go in and go, oh, someone's, going to give me money, so I'm just going to take whatever they say because I need it so bad, or I want it so bad. And then you end up, like Jim said, you're handcuffing yourself, and you're not able to get that compounding effect of reinvesting that money back into the next level of growth. So absolutely.
Yeah. Or again, just on, understanding the terms. The more you understand about business growth and not just your business, you're going to be at more of an advantage. Because the other way to play that particular scenario is if somebody says, well, no, I really would like the 3%. Say, well, how else can you compensate me? Do you have, because a lot of times, people, as an investing company, we have an operations team, right? An operator team. And those operators aren't just tactical people. They're sales leaders, sales strategists. We say, okay, if I was to make that deal with you and say, okay, I want 3% a year, and they go, well, that's going to hurt me into my investing in my leadership. I'll tell you what, I will give you my sales leader to oversee your operation, so it'll offset the expense you have to make, And then I want that 3%. Right. So again, it's all price and terms. Just remember those always. If they set the price, you set the terms. You can set one of the two, but you don't get to set both.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Jim, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your expertise. And oh my gosh, we could talk forever. We could just go on and on because I love it. But we do have to wrap up. So thank you so much for being a guest on today. And for anybody who would like to learn more about what it is you and the company does, how can they get in touch with you?
You can go to my personal website, jimp360.com. And when you get there, there's a contact button. It's got all the ways you can contact me, whichever is most effective for you. It's got information about our upcoming events and things that we have going on. Great way to get to know me, but reach out because I would love to hear what you're doing and how you're engaging the conversation about growth and scale in your company and what we can do to provide any assistance and resource.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the day.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and review, and we'll catch you on the next episode. If you're looking for more content or resources in the meantime, check out our website for information, blogs, and our I've Got a Spreadsheet for That series. That's thecashflowcfo.com. Again, thecashflowcfo.com. We can't wait to hear from you.